Good evening and what is up, Razorback Nation? We are back at you for another Razor recap here at Hogs on the Hill, your go-to source for an in-depth dive in all things Arkansas Razorbacks. And we are brought to you by our friends over at Razor Pigs. Looking good never felt so fun. Razor Pigs is the Arkansas-born brand, bringing some serious style to the golf course, tailgate, and everywhere in between. From high-quality polos to head-turning hats, they've got what you need to rep the national state with pride. Founded right here at home and now run by a Razorback loving family, Razor Pigs is where comfort meets cool. So go hog wild and shop Razor Pigs today at razorpigs.us and our friends over at Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. You can check them out today. And if you are in Northwest Arkansas, check out the Core Brewery Tap Room in downtown Springdale, where you can get Scarlet Letter in all of its various flavors, as well as their new hard iced teas. Well, we're back another Sunday, nothing different in terms of football yesterday. We'll dive into some Arkansas basketball as Arkansas got a nice, refreshing big win over Jackson State. And what's the latest on the Arkansas coaching search? And has Arkansas got their man? We'll dive into all that in tonight's episode. And we'll just go ahead and jump in. Arkansas basketball gets a big win over Jackson State, 115-61. I know we talked about it right before we jumped on here, but this was a nice, refreshing game after, the other games. Samford, Winthrop, where you kind of just squeak by. It's a lot closer than what it probably should have been. This was essentially a live action dunk contest, if you will.
Yeah. It was, I said to you, I was like, after what we went through with Winthrop, this was a breath of fresh air. I mean, they go out there and they handle business, but they did it in a very entertaining way, because like you'll get these games where they beat people 20, 30 points, and you're kind of like, this is boring. I just hope this is over in the next few minutes so I can go do something else. With this one, I was like, until the very end, I was entertained. I don't know about you. I mean, they looked like the Harlem Globetrotters out there, just throwing, like, Malik Ewan, where are these dimes just coming from? First of all, Darius Acuff owes Ewan like a steak dinner or something for missing on 2 back-to-back dimes. He could have been on, number 1 on SE Sports Center top 10. So, it was just fun. It was very, very entertaining. Is very needed before they go and they play this big game against Duke.
Right. And, especially the one I was watching that kind of just, was enjoyable was Billy Richmond out there just trying all kinds of different things, even though he didn't make them all, trying to throw down a 360 dunk on a fast break. He misses it, but, imagine how wild it would have been if he would have hit some of those. And, Transplant Texan has a good point here in the comments. A Hog win that was not so dominated by the freshman duo of Acuff and Thomas, which is nice to see. Some of the retention players, portal players stepping up. And that's a good point. You look at the box score. Those guys weren't your leading scorers. You had Malik Ewan with 21, Carter Knox with 17, and DJ Wagner with 16. Acuff had 10, Thomas had 13. But, to like what Transplant Texan was saying, it was nice to see a game where, you see your other guys step up. We talked about that last week. We need some of these other guys to step up. Yes, it's Jackson State, but any game like this is a confidence builder. These guys getting out there, maybe this kind of sparks Malik Ewan to play better, perform better. We talked about that. We need his performance, especially from these bigs. This was kind of the opposite game for Nick Pringle. He got the start in this one, but, only scored 4 points. Did add 5 rebounds, but, this was, like you mentioned earlier at the start, the kind of the Malik Ewan game for him here, and kind of, I guess, his first big game as a Razorback.
Yeah, and he did it all in 14 minutes. That's this is insane. And the thing is, they were drawing up a lot of things for him, or at least they were doing a lot of those pick and rolls, and Jackson State were biting on it quite a bit. So, it made it pretty easy for him to play. Now, I think that there were a few times where they got cutesy with it, and they, it was a little, show offy, and you saw it. It got tense when they kind of, Carter Knox and that dude had it out for a second. Like, first of all, Carter Knox, you don't need to be doing that. The whistle's blown, let go of the ball, they've already decided what the rest have already decided what they're going to do. Like, there's no reason to hold on to the ball. On the other hand, that dude, like, you're getting beat by 40 points. Just there's no reason to start throwing punches.
Right.
Just like go out there, play, get home, and go to bed, and live your life. But I don't know, man. It was fun. But what's his name? It was like Trevor Brazil only got 8 points in this game too, right? So you see not just the freshman falling back, but even like Brazil, who's been that third, 2 or 3 guy in scoring, kind of pulls it back a little bit, lets everybody else shine. It was
And
just
again,
all
only
around
played 20 minutes too. So
right. And I mean, there's not a person that played more than the only person that played more than 22 minutes was DJ Wagner at 28. So, but
right.
the thing is, they also had 68 points in the second half. I mean, you're not going to be playing very many minutes if you're killing people by that much.
I was about to say, there's a reason you see like Billy getting extra minutes with 24, Isaiah Steele getting 15 minutes, that type of thing in this game. So, and the one thing to note here is that in a crazy stat to me, DJ Wagner, he played 28 minutes, scored 16 points, 7 assists. His plus minus was plus 50 in this game. Yeah. So, I mean, that just tells insane. You what kind of game he had. But, talking about a guy that played efficient in this game, look at Carter Knox. He played 18 minutes in this game and had 17 points, shot 5 of 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep, 5 of 7 from the line, had 10 rebounds, so got himself a nice double-double, had 1 assist as well as 2 steals. So, a quietly decent night for him getting a double-double in this game where, maybe that we talked about it with Malik Ewan, gives him some confidence, as he continues to perform consistently. Because like we said, we're still waiting for a consistent kind of number 3 guy to show up and be one of those guys you can count on night in and night out. And then, Malik Thomas, we'll highlight these guys. 13 points, 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He had 2 rebounds, 3 assists in 18 minutes. Darius Acuff, 10 points, 4 of 9 from the field, 2 of 4 from deep, 2 assists, 1 block, 2 steals from him in 22 minutes. You mentioned Brazil, 8 points, 2 of 4 from the field, missed his only 3-pointer, 4 of 4 from the line, had 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, 1 steal in 20 minutes. So, everybody was getting involved. Like Transplant Texan said here too, shout out to Amir Brown that got in some minutes and scored his first collegiate points. You saw Elmer Zafich come in for 4 minutes. Hey, Isaiah Sealy played 15 minutes, scored 10 points, 4 of 4 from the field, 2 of 2 from the line. He had 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Like, everybody's getting an opportunity in this game, and a much needed win before, you go into a big time battle with Duke this week on Thanksgiving Day.
Right. And it was big time. It was a big win, but they were also efficient with it. They had fun. They got those probably, I don't want to say they were bad performances, but sloppy performances against, back to back against
right
Winthrop, Stanford, and Michigan State too. Let's not forget that loss. Getting that a little bit off your back before going to Chicago and playing a very, very dangerous and very talented Duke team. I mean, like, those Boucher guys, especially Caden Bruiser. Not Caden, the other one, Cameron Bruiser. I mean, like, dude is good. At every level, shooting, defense, off the point. Like, he's 6'9", but I guarantee you he could play point guard if he wanted to. Like, he's got it all, to be honest with you. And as far as defensively in the front court, I think that's probably where Duke's weakness is their front court defense. They've got another 7-footer over there that's not very great at being a defensive guy, but he can score. So that's why he's on the court. Yeah, it's just it'll be a very high scoring game if you know if we want to look preview a little bit before we get over there. But yeah, no, it's exciting. It's going to be a pretty good matchup, I think.
Right. And we'll hit some more of that on our show next week. But yeah, to your point, if I'm John Calipari coming up for a game plan for this game, that's my number one thing I'm circling, putting stars by is, hey, let's stop Boozer and force the rest of the team to beat us because, he leads them in nearly every category except for one. So if you can you're not going to completely take him out of this game, but if you can, limit him, then you put yourself with a good chance to win, and that is with the caveat that your team, your guy shows up and performs as well. So
Right.
and so, like it's one of those things where it's going to be another good test for us, like I said, against or for the Michigan State game, another measuring stick. How much have we improved or worked on things since from that Michigan State game to this point? Because as we know, physicality, big man in the paint was kind of what killed us in that Michigan State game. So as we go into this game, what are you going to do, or what's the game plan to show that, hey, that's not your weakness? Because if I'm Duke, that's what I'm attacking right away. Let me go get down, hit them in the paint, and see what they can do compared to their previous game against Michigan State.
Yeah, and they're very good at getting in the paint. The guards, everybody is very good at getting the paint. They're very good at getting and ones. Just go back and watch that Kansas tape. Duke and Kansas, that's probably going to be their closest game to what Arkansas is going to bring them. So yeah, they're very good at drawing those fouls.
Right. So it's going to be a fun one to watch. We'll dive more into previewing that next week. But yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I'm going to be interested to watch and see what strides this team's made, from that point till now. So, as we continue on, so good win by this basketball team, their last kind of quote unquote cupcake as they start entering this stretch where, you're going to go play Duke on Thanksgiving Day. And then you kind of start playing some higher level competition as you come back home. You're going to play Louisville. You're going to play Fresno. You're going to play Texas Tech, sprinkling Queens, and then Houston and James Madison. And before you know it, we're going to be turning around here saying, oh, it's conference play time. So,
yeah, I mean, like there's so much left to go in this non-conference, and there's so many more like marquee games. Yeah, Texas Tech got destroyed the other day by was it Purdue, who just beat the crap out of them. And then, but still, I mean, there's recent history with them at least. Trying to get back at them. I know Cal's going to want that one. And then you got Houston, which is another big player in this year. They've been a huge team in the last couple of years too. And then, yeah,
not to mention two big time coaches going to each other with Kelvin Sampson too.
Right. I mean, it's just a huge story, but and then you get into league play in SEC. Let's be honest. This isn't your grandpa's SEC basketball conference anymore. This is, I mean, they're probably, if not the best, top two basketball conference in the country, which is kind of crazy how quickly they've transferred, being like a mid-tier conference in basketball to being one of the top. Right.
Because, historically, when you think college basketball, it's the ACC, Duke, North Carolina, Louisville, those games. But now here comes the SEC, like to your point, how quick they transformed in from that mid-tier basketball conference to right up there, if not better, with, just the amount of quality teams that are consistently getting in the tournament now. It's not just Kentucky anymore or just Tennessee. It's Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Florida, Alabama. There's a lot of good teams across the league, and even that bottom floor is much better than what it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, you still go to Nashville and you can lose to Vandy like that.
Right.
South Carolina has never been very good at men's basketball, and we lost at South Carolina last year. I mean, there's so many traps, I guess, throughout this entire season that Arkansas's got to be, pretty finely tuned at least by the time they get to conference play, or you might start out with another 0-5 start. Like and it could be one possession here, two possessions there. It could be very close games, but Arkansas's got to be tied in together, and I think part of the reason why they've been pretty good this year is because they have that cohesion between those older players like Knox and Richmond and Wagner and Brazil and stuff like that. So as if they can lean on that, I feel very, very good going into that into conference play.
Right. Yeah. It's not like you can go through this conference circle. Okay, this one's going to be easy. My tough game is going to be this Kentucky game and this Tennessee game. No, you've got to watch out for everybody. Even Florida. Florida historically has been good anyway, but your top tier programs, or it seems like are more consistent at a higher level too. So, yeah, can't wait to get through the rest of this non-conference. All these big time matchups coming up, along with what should be another tough conference schedule that we've got slated up for this season. So as we continue on here, we'll jump into the game yesterday. Arkansas loses to Texas 52-37. Not going to spend a lot of time here just because there's, same story, different day. Yes, surprisingly not a one possession, 3-point loss in this one. It was close for a time period, going into halftime, it's close, but then things kind of get out of hand after half. Not much to talk about in this game. The one thing that I do want to talk about, we talked about this before we jumped on here too, is what a quiet game that KJ Jackson came in the second half. Taylor Green injury. KJ Jackson comes in and quietly just has a decent game for himself. Comes in, goes 16 of 29 for 206 yards and throws a touchdown. On the ground, 4 carries for 24 yards and a touchdown as well. The one blemish to that his first stint playing a lengthy period in an Arkansas game was that unfortunate strip sack that got returned for a touchdown. But other than that, for his first extended time against Texas, at a top tier SEC team, I'm impressed with this, I guess, quote unquote debut performance from KJ Jackson.
Yeah, man, I am too. You could tell he was a little bit skittish. He looked a little bit skittish when he went out there, but by the time he started, he got that first touchdown and then he threw that second touchdown. He started to look a lot more comfortable in the pocket. But yeah, no, Taylor Green might have had an injury, but do you think that if he wouldn't have just, literally tossed the ball to a Texas player, the play he got hurt, do you think he would be back in the game? Because I think he would be back in the game. So yeah. I'm not totally buying that he was hurt and couldn't go on and couldn't play. I think he got benched. Let's just be completely honest. And I've been a huge fan of Taylor Green. That was ridiculous. So yeah, it was time for KJ Jackson to come in and show us what he had. And dude, 206 yards. That's insane. He didn't even play a full half of football either.
Right.
So yeah, he went out there, did his thing, and put on a show. And he put out some good tape for either whoever this next coach is, or to go out into the portal and get himself a good landing spot. Which, you know what, if that happens, you cannot blame him. He's been here for 2 years already. If he comes in and he has to sit behind another quarterback,
right,
I would not blame him for leaving. It's kind of like the whole Malachi Singleton thing all over again. Like he saw how it worked with Malachi. I don't think he's going to want to sit here and do that again.
Right. And I will say the one thing comparatively, not throwing out any shade or anything, but to me, at least in-game performance, to me, I liked his performance a lot better than what we saw from Malachi Singleton. Yes, Malachi came in 2 years ago, or not this season, but last season, and helped us get that win over Tennessee. But he mainly did that rushing it on the ground. In this game, you got to see KJ Jackson use his arm, air it out. It took a minute for me to get used to it because he is a lefty. So that's one thing to note. You seeing him rolling out of the pocket a different way. And to transplant Texans' point here, he actually stayed inside or stepped up into the pocket in this game. Some things that we've talked about that Taylor Green hasn't necessarily done. And the other big thing that I noticed, and Transplant Texan makes the point here, he turned down, quote unquote, the belt after his rushing touchdown. More or less, I don't want anything to do with that. There's no point in celebrating right now. We're losing. Like, I get it's fun to have those type of things on the sideline, but the way the seasons went, the way this game's been, like there's a time and place for it, and this game was not it.
Right. And DJ Williams came on, and the thing is about DJ Williams is that he played in a different time whenever things were a little bit, like a little more matter of fact, like a little bit tougher on these guys and tougher on him. And I'm not saying that this new era is better than that, because I don't. I think DJ Williams is completely right. But he went off on him too, right? He was like, I don't know. I don't understand why we do this in the first place. Like, it's just embarrassing now that we have 2 wins and we're out there celebrating these moments. But yeah, it was a it was a level of maturity that you wouldn't think you would see out of a redshirt freshman.
Right.
Like, he knew the situation. He knew, and to be honest, out of all the people who scored yesterday, he had the most right to do it, because he shouldn't be put in that place, and he still went out there and performed excellently, and he deserved to have that belt for what it's worth and what it means. He's the one who deserved to have it, and he had the foresight to see, like, hey, we're getting our not foresight, but the maturity to see that, hey, we're getting our butts kicked. We don't need to be celebrating this. Let's just go sit down and watch our defense, cheer them on, and then go out there again and try and score again. That's what you like.
Exactly. And to your point, he came out, showcased himself. Knock on wood, as much as any other Arkansas fan, you saw a glimpse of, if you get him to stay, whoever the new coach comes in, if he fits their system, would love to see KJ Jackson back next year and see what he can do. But to your point, if that's not the case and he decides to move on, which I wouldn't blame him either, hey, go out and get yourself a bag, because what I saw yesterday, and it's not like he did all this against, like we said, some small team like in Arkansas. Like, it wasn't against Arkansas State or one of the other teams that Arkansas just comes out and has at the beginning of the season, and Alabama A&M, anything like that. This was against Texas, who, they're not having the season that kind of everybody thought they would, but they're still a good Texas team, really good defense, and he came out there and put up those type of numbers. Minimal mistakes. Yes, like I said, you had that strip sack that was returned for a touchdown. That was unfortunate, but played a clean game, had a decent completion percentage on the ground, showed the toughness, shaking off defenders on that touchdown run that he ran in. So great job for him, and that begs the question. We'll talk a little bit more on Wednesday of next week when we do our show, but do you look at potentially giving him more time next week against Missouri? That's what I'm going to see. Yeah, it's senior day. We talked about Talon has had an up and down season this year. Started out the season really hot, but then down towards these last few games has struggled at times. So that's what I'll be interested to see, what Petrino says in his pressers this week, what he talks about in practice in terms of what they do. And, Transplant Texan asked, would the Hogs have won a few of their games this season if given a few more games to play? We'll never know. The bench hides another talented player.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to start KJ Jackson. I mean, depending on, whether or not the injury is actually a thing. Like, if it's really an injury, maybe they'll start him, and maybe Taylor Green will miss his last game as a Hog. But at the same time, they're not playing for anything but pride,
Right.
right? And that's all that Taylor Green has too. So, and you've rode with him for what is it now? Um, 23 games as the Arkansas field general. I mean, you don't just give it up for the last game, especially when you're not playing for anything,
Right.
right? So I imagine you'll see it. If it starts to get ugly, they'll probably put KJ Jackson in and just be done with it, and
Right.
then move on to whoever comes in here after that. So,
Right.
but yeah, I see him playing.
Yeah. And the only other thing I want to talk about this game, shout out Mike Washington, broke 1,000 yards on the season in this game, 17 carries, 105 net yards gained, a touchdown, and a highlight play where he just completely trucks Texas's Michael Taft. That best moment of the game right there. He trucks him, runs in the end zone, throws horns down. Best moment of the game by far.
Yeah, when that happened, I was like, "Hey, we might actually win this thing."
Right, it's
it got me so pumped.
Something here.
Yeah, and that's what you live for whenever you play Texas, for those type of moments. Even though you're going to get beat 7 times out of 10, it's those moments where you can just stick it to them. I really like. Mike Washington has been one of the silver linings of this season, and he's one of the things that you're like, if we would have just had a decent defense, he's probably up for the Doak Walker Award, right? He wouldn't win because there's Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame, who's probably going to win every single running back award this year. But you have a guy that type of caliber who's not going to really get recognition. He's probably going to get this game probably put him up a little bit further in the draft too. Let's be honest. So he might go in like the second, third, fourth round, and people are going to be like, "Who the heck is this Mike Washington dude? Played 1 year at Arkansas and came from New Mexico. Like, who is this guy?" And then he's going to ball out in the NFL because he's the prototypical NFL running back. And we just kind of wasted him at Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched the game yesterday, it cracked me up because they went through and they did the comparison of the Arkansas offense. Talking about you've got Taylor Green, fantastic, prototypical type quarterback. They comped Mike Washington to Christian McCaffrey. They showed the size of the O line, the D line, and I'm like, I just thought it was funny that they went through and did all that when we're having the type of season that we are, 2-8 now, 2-9. So that just, I think, rubs salt in the wound a little bit more, knowing, hey, look at all these statistical things that this team should be better, but they're not. And so, like to your point, Mike Washington, good job. Way to raise your draft stock, way to hit that 1,000-yard mark on the season. In a season that hasn't went to plan or to what everybody thought it would be, but you were still able to get yours. Just big shout out to him.
Oh, and here's another thing: the fall off of Omega Blake.
Right, where is he been?
He's had a couple drops. He's had some effort issues. Like, what the heck, man? Like, talking about all you're playing for, all he's playing for is more film for an NFL team. Like, if he wants to go on and play in the NFL, he better buckle up against Missouri and have a bomb game, or he might not get drafted. He probably won't get drafted, even if he does that, because the last few games have just not been great. He was teetering on the edge of being, a 7th round guy. And I just don't think he is if he doesn't show enough effort. So, and there's only so much he can do. Like, he can't choose when the ball gets thrown to him, but you can still have that effort on those plays that you don't get thrown to. And then whenever you do get thrown to, you have to have those efforts. And as a receiver, you don't know when you're going to get the ball. Just like whenever he led to that interception against, what was it, LSU or
Yeah,
Missouri? Yeah, it was
yeah,
LSU.
LSU right before the half.
Yeah, so I mean, it's plays like that, like, um, and then drops and just it's been disappointing the last couple games. Someone who's been very, very good this season too. Like, it's just disappointing.
Right. Yeah, you look at it, Rohan Jones, had his biggest game of the season probably in terms of just quantity of passes. He had 5 catches for 82 yards, no touchdown this game. Jaden Platt 4 for 66 for a touchdown. So, quarterbacks liking the tight ends in this game. Raylan Sharp 4 for 65. Mike Washington 6 for 43. But yeah, Omega Blake 2 for 29. When, going into that first half of the season, was leading all receivers. It was getting 7, 8, 9 receptions a game, over 100 yards, getting a touchdown. Yeah, just the drop off has been insane. But it's like a couple of comments here from Transplant Text, and he mentions and I agree with you, kind of backing up a minute. Talon has earned the start in Missouri game as a senior. However, KJ has earned and showed at least the opportunity to play at half by what he displayed against Texas. He mentions Washington had a great game and season, and essentially, yes, was the lone back yesterday. You saw a handful of carries from the freshman Cam Settles, but it was the Mike Washington show yesterday against Texas. Transplant Texan also says Green to Omega Blake no longer the dominant combo in the game. Yesterday was all about Raylan Sharp and these tight ends. So, yeah, I don't know what it is, if it was just scheming, Green not playing throwing the ball to him, to your point, maybe some effort in terms of, I don't know. I don't want to question a guy like that, but the drop off has just been so big, and you could tell. And so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, another unfortunate Arkansas loss, and another day. I don't want to dive into it much, but going out there and making Arch Manning look like a superstar.
Yeah, and I'm at least it wasn't a one possession loss.
Hey, right? At least we didn't
Silver
have hope
linings.
all the way until the end, and just to get it dashed
Yeah, we
away.
just had hope until halftime.
Right.
So
After that, and
only
then
half the game.
I think things really started going downhill, like you mentioned, when Green had that essentially, let me just toss this ball to this Texas player.
Yeah.
Because, if you go down and score there, you're still in the game. You take the game to, I believe it would be a one possession game if you go down and score there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Another silver lining is that you got to listen to Joe Tessitore, and like he's my favorite. He's my favorite play-by-play guy, and even in the chaos of it, it's still entertaining to listen to him call games too. Because like whenever Green did do that, he's like, "What is he doing?" Like very animated, just like he is. So even in that, it's fun to like listen and watch. But that's gonna go down as one of those plays, like, although it didn't have as much meaning as the Texas A&M KJ Jefferson trying to dive 5 yards away from the goal line where they fumbled and took it back. It's not going to have the, meaning of that, but that's just another one of those stupid plays that we've had in the last few years that just makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
So you just add it to the pile of those.
Exactly. So, one more game to this season, and we won't have to deal with football. I hate it's gotten to that point where we're just like, oh, let's get through this. But I think more than anything, all right, let's finish this season, see who the new coach is going to be, get this clean slate, if you will, to see what the next few years of Arkansas football is going to look like. Jordan jumps in here and asks, what if that was TG's last play as a Hog? And I think that goes back to, it was the reason he exited the game due to injury, was that, is that a lingering thing that's going to play in this next game? Or, did he have some tightness? They mentioned his hamstrings. and that, was tight, and you saw him stretching over on the sideline. Is that something that's going to linger? Or to your point, is that kind of a, not an excuse, but kind of a smokescreen they're throwing out there to kind of cover him getting benched? So
Yeah,
that just depends. And like Transplant Texas said, he might get the start in the Missouri game, but if he starts, throws an interception or starts, not playing well, this game against Texas makes it real easy for Petrino to be like, all right, KJ, let's get in there. So
yeah. I mean, got nothing to lose, but
right,
yeah, I hope it's not. I really do, because I'm a big Taylor Green fan. I know he's had bad struggles. I mean, he's really, really screwed up some games for us in the past few. So I understand why everyone's frustrated with him and why people want KJ Jackson to play. But just to send him off on a good note, I think I would really like for him not to have that as his last play as a quarterback.
right. I agree 100% there. It's like Transplant Texan said, if the shot put pass as TG's last play, that would be brutal. But it would sum up the downside of him as QB1 this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Next week, senior day, I guess, not senior night, because Arkansas is not going to get a night game this season officially. So it's going to be, we'll sit and watch, see what the injury report looks like. We'll see if a guy like, does Braylon Russell play? There's been some talks of, he's out with a concussion, but also is he just kind of sitting the rest of the season because what else are you playing for? We know the history of him last offseason. Wouldn't necessarily be that surprising to see something like that again, be like, all right, I'm done. I'm just going to sit, keep myself healthy, and leave at the end of the season. So,
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if his name pops in the portal on Sunday morning.
right.
Just be
Get through
honest.
Saturday, Sunday. All right, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah.
He might be interested to see who the next coach is going to be, but who knows? And so,
yeah, if you want to transition to that, I think we're probably going to know between now and in Missouri.
I was about to say, I was going to say, let's get into talking about this coaching search. And, of course, we all know the talk today. Brandon Marcello puts out a tweet with a GIF saying there's a new sheriff in town, puts the eyeballs emoji, the Razorback emoji, and that's all he puts. And so he sends all of Razorback Twitter and social media into a frenzy saying, hey, Arkansas's got their guy essentially. And then, there's an article you click behind a paywall in the message boards where he mentions specifically there within the next 48 hours. So, we're potentially talking Tuesday night. We know who's going to be the next coach, or it could be sooner within that time span. So, that's interesting to see that. I mean, we figured this will be happening soon, but what's your initial thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think he flubbed with the GIF, right? Because people were going at him hard. And the thing is, the movie the GIF is called 48 Hours. So that's where he was going with it. He didn't realize that the whole, there's a new sheriff in town would send people into a frenzy. And, I've been on the other end of that. Like, I've put out something I thought was a catchy headline, but not really too clickbaity, where it turned out people thought it was very clickbaity. So I understand it. I think that he was very defensive about it. And I commented, I was like, this is a reaction people are going to have. Like, you can say you screwed up and then move on. Right. But at the same time, it felt crummy because he also put it behind a paywall. Right. So people had to go pay to see that it wasn't even what they thought it was going to be. And the thing is, I don't think he has a name. I think he has a timeline. So people did feel misled. I kind of felt misled at first too. But then again, I look at it from his point of view, and I can see why he would put that GIF out. It's just, from somebody who's written and done stuff in the media like that, I understand. But at the same time, I think he probably knows a little bit of something that's going on. In that, since he made this whole thing blown up, and I had to go and figure out how to read it and whatnot. He said that those names that well, what's his
Thamel,
name?
Pete
Thamel.
Thamel.
Yeah, he put out on Saturday night during the broadcast, which was Alex Golish, Ryan Silverfield, Eric Morris, and Kane Womack, the DC at Alabama, are
Alabama.
the four names that he heard. Brandon Marcello said those, at least some of them, were the names that he's heard, but he's also heard a couple more. And that's what's weird about this whole search. Like right now, I'm feeling like it's probably going to be Eric Morris. That's probably just my gut feeling, right? My head, right? And then my heart, which I know, I have a feeling like it's completely, totally false, is Matt Campbell, right? And then there's also the grumblings about Gruden, and then rumors about Riley, and I can go on with the alliteration. There's so many guys already that are being rumored that
Right.
this administration, for whatever you think about Hunter Yurchek, they've kept it under wraps, and they've
Right.
put out so much smoke screens you don't even know what's going on. But I'll
And
be honest with you, if they put out this many smoke screens for Eric freaking Morris, I'm gonna be pissed.
Right.
Like,
And that's what I was going to
no,
say.
yeah,
It seems like this coaching search has just been one smokescreen after another, starting out with, James Franklin. And then, all of a sudden after he announces he's going to take the job at Virginia Tech, for, like all of 2 to 3 days there, everybody pivoted. Oh, it's John Gruden. And then, all these other smoke screens. And then, like, to your point, logically, like you were saying, your head's telling you Eric Morris. Well, there's also some things that you can kind of point to that makes that seem more real, because it came out today that the North Texas Athletics Department, their board of trustees, their equivalent of whatever, donors, boosters, whatever you want to call it, had around kind of essentially, for all intents and purposes, an emergency meeting late yesterday, and was trying to figure out things and put some things in place so that they could keep him here or keep him there. But I also know Morris has also been rumored and in talks with Oklahoma State as well. So it could be nothing to do with Arkansas, but he could be taking that Oklahoma State job. But at this point,
and I go a step further. I heard that this is just rumor, right? Like nothing like to go crazy, but I heard that Eric Morris is leaning towards Oklahoma State. So like I have no idea what to think, but I don't think Ryan Silverfield or Alex Golish are very hot right now. And then the Kane Womack just seems like Kane is out there lobbying for the job rather than Arkansas is looking towards him.
it's because of his Arkansas ties.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like nobody knows. Like if somebody tells you they know, they're lying to you.
Right. It's like, I'm not necessarily at this point going to believe anybody unless like it was somebody directly related to, involved with this coaching search within the athletic department, or prominent booster or something like that. Because at this point, with all these quote unquote smoke screens, or as Transplant Texan says, are these really smoke screens, or are we trying to put out the dumpster fire of a head coach search? We should know soon. And I think that's the key, is within a couple of days. Hopefully we know soon. Hopefully it's not a dumpster fire. Like you said, if we go through this whole process, and the best we can do, nothing against these guys, is a guy like Eric Morris from North Texas. That's the best you can do. Even though, yes, we're not the biggest and best and brightest in the SEC. We're still in the SEC. We still have a program that can get you one heck of an NIL budget. And that's what you can come up with. And who knows, maybe you are stumbling on a diamond in the rough, if you will, if it's him. I don't know. But, I think what a lot of Arkansas fans want right now is somebody to come in and that's a proven winner. And to your point, I've been seeing the stuff as well, talking about Matt Campbell, a guy that has been tried, that a lot of schools have tried to lure away from Iowa State over these past 3 or 4 years. He's become a hot name, 3-time, coach of the year in the Big 12. Has had that success at Iowa State, that consistency. His Wikipedia has already been changed at least twice that I know of, saying he was the head coach at Arkansas and making $8 million, where he's making currently 4 at Iowa State. So, to your point, it's like, I don't know what to believe. I'm not going to believe anything until it's an official announcement or anything like that. So, I don't know. At this point,
here's what I gotta say about Transparent Texans point. If it is a dumpster fire of a search, you don't get people to stay tight-lipped like that for 2 months.
Right.
So, like, it's got to be somebody who, it's got to be, you would think, right? You would think it's got to be, they're trying to get somebody who is a big fish, right? And they don't want it to get out because they don't want to stir up problems with that person. I'm not saying they're going to get that person, because they could, miss out in the 9th hour or the 11th hour and have to get a Morris or a Golish or a Silverfield or something like that. But I think the reason why it's so tight-lipped is because they've gone after big guys. James Franklin was one. Depending on who you believe, he wasn't actually somebody they were going after, which I don't believe whatsoever.
Was Arkansas another Jimmy Sexton ploy to get Virginia Tech to spend more money?
Right. I really don't think that's what it is. I think it came down to a lot of the factors about, like his daughter having sickle cell anemia and being closer to John Hopkins. And I think it had a lot to do with that and his ties to the Northeast rather than what Arkansas had to offer him. Let's just be honest there.
Right. And to Jordan's point here, are we doing all this and going through all this just to turn around? Like I texted you and Hobbs the other day and said, plot twist, Arkansas is going to turn around and announce that they're going to keep Bobby Petrino as the head coach. Like, are we seriously going through all this to turn around and be like, all right, we're going to stick with Bobby, say, give him a year contract, something like that. See, like, all right, here's a year contract, come out, prove yourself, and we'll go from there. Because people have talked about the point of he's still out there recruiting. Why would you still necessarily be out there recruiting if you knew you might not be here? Or, I was talking to somebody and they said, well, he may have to kind of, quote unquote, still be out there recruiting, just to, essentially be out there doing it.
Yeah. That or whoever they're talking to might bring him on as an OC. Like that might be part of the negotiations and stuff. Who knows? Yeah, no. If they end up with Bob Petrino as the head coach, I don't know what
you could do worse, I guess, right? Like Bobby Petrino versus Eric Morris. Or
look, I'll get it this way: if they want Razorback Stadium to look like Bud Walton when they play a directional school, hire Bobby Petrino, because that place will be freaking empty. And then we'll see how good softball and soccer can be when they don't have freaking money to play. Like, we'll see how good they are when they do that. So, yeah, Bobby Petrino would be ridiculous. I don't think anybody has any faith in him right now. I don't think anybody has any excitement about him right now. You need something to generate that type of excitement, because you're also not going to have boosters that are very excited about it, because they weren't very excited about him coming back. Some of them, at least, weren't very excited about him coming back as an OC. So, yeah, it's just you destroy the program, I think.
Right. And the other one that I want to touch on that, people have talked about and thrown out there that I'm pretty sure we did, quote unquote, officially interview is it's been brought back up. Gus Malzahn. So, like, quote unquote, he was spotted in Fort Smith the other day, but, I think that picture was taken when Florida State had their bye week. He is from Arkansas, so of course you might see him back here during his bye week. But at this point, people need to let it go. I would much rather keep Bobby over bringing Gus back, if we're just talking about those two. But
Yeah.
Transplant Texan is saying, there is, in all caps, a surprising number of fans that, all caps, still want to keep Bobby P.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, he didn't get to build his team and blah, 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 but he got to build his offense. And we saw the last few weeks where the offense just didn't do well. Play calling is a little sus sometimes. And then, um, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't trust him to build a defense off of what Arkansas has right now. Right. I don't
Right.
trust him to go into the portal and not see a shiny new receiver over here when he could get two pretty decent defensive backs over here for the same price. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't trust him to do that as a head coach. And Arkansas needs that. Arkansas needs to step back away from the offensive side of the ball a little bit, add a little bit more on defense, and go from there. So, well, I don't know. That's why I don't think he would be very good. But as far as a lot of people, like, how many of those people actually spend a significant amount of money towards Arkansas football? How many of them go to the games? Um, I don't think. I think it's significantly lower than what we see on Twitter and what we see on Facebook. I think there's a lot of people who are very loud about it. I don't think that's one of the things that most Arkansas fans feel.
Right. And it's like it's been said before, nostalgia will do that to a lot of people reminiscing on what Bobby did before, how well we were doing when he was here before. But we got to remember, that was over 10 years ago now. The whole landscape of college football is different. So, and Transplant Texas says here, we hit it on it earlier. Bobby P doesn't have the widespread big donor support to make significant changes for this team to get wins. And yeah, I mean, we get back to the same issue that we talked about where you've got to have somebody. And I know the Tysons, Waltons, and Hunts have kind of taken the charge, if you will, on the coaching search, but you've got to get at least somebody that can semi unite all the boosters, because you can't have, oh, let's just go hire this guy, and then some of these boosters be like, well, you didn't really, that's not who I wanted, so my donation is going to be less, or maybe I'm not going to donate this season, or something to that effect. You want to get somebody in here that at some capacity excites everybody across the board, whether it be John Tyson, the Hunts, the Waltons, the Lindsays, the Fletchers, the Stevens, the numerous other big donors out there that we get support from. And I mean, at this point, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I can tell you who it was. It was James Franklin.
Right. Exactly.
And they missed. If Virginia Tech wouldn't have gone out, if Virginia Tech wouldn't have, screwed up, or not screwed up, fired their coach, they screwed up for me. They screwed it up for us. If they wouldn't have fired their coach, he would be in Fayetteville right now. I wholeheartedly believe that. But it was just too much of a pull for him. So it is what it is.
Oh, and did you even see where I think they said it was being talked about that he's looking to bring on Brent Pry to his staff, who was the head coach at Virginia Tech. But Brent Pry was on his staff previously, I believe, at Penn State and Vanderbilt. So that's a little funny to think about. All right, this guy that you just fired, he's coming back on my staff, by the way.
Yeah, that's a little bit insane. But hey, whatever, heals the wounds there, right? They don't have the history that Arkansas does, but recently they've been better, right? So they have a little bit more expectation, I think, than Arkansas fans do.
Right.
But they also have a very easy conference. So I wouldn't be surprised if James Franklin's got them humming by year 2, right? Probably pretty close, if not into the college football playoffs. It would take a lot longer for Arkansas. Let's just be clear.
And you've already seen the number of former Penn State recruits that are visiting Virginia Tech.
Right. Right. And that's what I was hoping that we
Right.
would get from him. Um, but then again, if you get someone like Matt Campbell, right? If you get somebody who could, spark up the ears of some of these big boosters who has done more with less, who can actually go into Dallas now and probably recruit somebody who, if he did do that and he did come here and then those boosters did decide to invest, would have more money than Sam Pittman did. You could see him potentially having a very good football team within the next 2 or 3 years too.
Right.
Not saying college football playoff level, right? I don't think we'll get that, before 2030. But we could get close. That's all we want, really. As
Right.
Arkansas fans, I would be okay with 8-4 every year with
consistently win
with a
7 to
chance,
8 games.
right.
And then maybe every 2 to 3 years you get a 10-11 win season if you're lucky.
Right. And if if the college football playoffs expand to 16 teams, you could have a 9-3 season and still be in the playoffs.
Right.
Right. That's something that's possible. With the crazy schedules Arkansas has already, if those don't stop, Arkansas could probably get in as a 9-3 team. They could have gotten to the playoffs this year as a 9-3 team, at least theoretically at the beginning of the season. Texas and LSU screwed up, so we didn't really have the chance to beat a good LSU or a good Texas team.
Right.
But like the chances are there for Arkansas. You don't have to be perfect to get your chance at a national title now. So, yeah, somebody that can get Arkansas to that level, that's what Arkansas needs.
Yeah. S. Jack here says, bet it's Golish. And I mean, guys like Golish and Silverfield, to me, I would like to, I guess, quote unquote, be fading on because start off the season hot. For example, Golish at USF. You beat Boise State, you beat Florida, your first 2 games of the season. All right, you're currently ranked, and then you lose to Miami. That's fair. Okay. Well, the rest of your schedule, you beat SC State, South Carolina State, you beat Charlotte, you get a win over Eric Morris's North Texas team that's 9-1. You get a big win over them. You beat FAU. Well, you turn around, you lose to Memphis, who beat Arkansas and was looking like the favorite Group of 5 school to make the college football playoffs. Then you bounce back, beat UTSA. You lose to Navy. You beat UAB in your final game's Rice. So, I mean, your schedule, and then you jump over to Memphis and Ryan Silverfield. All right, you win out. You get a good win over Arkansas. If you're Memphis, then you lose to UAB, as we know, fired Trent Dilfer. They haven't had a great season. You turn around and beat South Florida, so you beat Golish. Then you beat Rice. Then you have back-to-back losses against Tulane and East Carolina. Tulane, another guy we haven't talked about, John Summerall, but more than likely he's the favorite right now from what I've seen for the Auburn job.
Yeah. Honestly, I would still take Alex Golish. I think I would probably take him over Eric Morris, and it's not because I think he's a better. I just think that he has a better, what do you call it? Better overall team or overall concept of what his team wants to look like. I think North Texas is very, very offensive heavy, and Arkansas needs something that's a little bit defensive too. And like, I'm not convinced that this whole let's go look for a defensive minded guy is the right answer, right? I still think Arkansas has to have a good offense. But at the same time, you want somebody that has a little bit of a defensive mind, or a little bit of a preference towards a decent defense. And they kind of do, or at least I think he has a better one than Eric Morris. But I think it's cooled off from his side. Like if you looked at USF sent out a text that was, or a tweet that was saying something about glad he's coming back, or glad to have him here or whatever. And then he sent out another tweet being excited to be at USF and stuff like that. I think he's going to stay another year there. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. So that's why I don't think he's going to be goalish, but I would like to have him.
Well, and the whole thing with Morris at North Texas, you look at their schedule, they're 9-1, their loss being to South Florida. They beat Washington State, but they're not that great this year. They got one game left against Temple. But I think he hit the headlines just because you look at the whole story behind Drew Mestemaker, the quarterback at North Texas that was a 0-star recruit, didn't start a game after JV in high school, and comes out this season, has thrown through, has one game left in the season, has thrown for almost 3,500 yards, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Talking about his offensive kind of, I hate to say mastermind, but kind of saying, oh, look at what he did and transform this kid. And you still got to remember they're playing the American Conference.
Right. I think he's a very Cliff Kingsbury type of hire, right? Just Cliff never had the success that Eric does because they play on. Cliff played in the Big 12. Eric plays in our coaches in the American.
And Jack said here too. He talking about Morris has a good track record developing big time quarterbacks. Eric Morris.
Yeah, but you know who else does that?
Cam Ward. So
right. You know who else has a big time history of recording, development for big time quarterbacks? Bobby Petrino. Doesn't mean I want him here.
Right.
There's
it seems
more
like
to
Morris
the game.
is just a younger
right.
Bobby Petrino, essentially.
That's what I was. Yeah, I was thinking like that Cliff Kingsbury, Bobby Petrino type. I think he's going to be a good quarterback or a good head coach. I just don't know if he's what Arkansas needs right now. Like if Arkansas had a little bit of a defense or a little bit of a record of winning the last decade, sure, gamble on him. I think he might be, but there's too much risk in it, right? There could be a very bad side to that hire, even though he could bring in a very good quarterback and a very good offense.
Right, because it's ironically enough, we've kind of tried this experiment before when we hired another guy by the last name of Morris from SMU, thinking it was going to be the next big thing, and we saw how that turned out. And it is unfortunate, and it's just an ironic coincidence that he has the same last name as a former Razorback coach that did not do very well. And then, you had the Sam Pittman experience, that it started out great, and then it was one of those things where maybe you let it go just a little too long. And so at this point, I would rather have somebody more, what's the word? Not an up and comer, somebody that's more concrete, solidified, that could come and bring some consistency. And I don't know what we're going to get. So,
yeah, that's what I think Arkansas needs. Whether or not they'll be able to get that, I don't know, because it's just this whole entire search has been weird. And we really won't know the whole story until it all comes out.
Right. And I told somebody, I said, I would love for this to be one of the very similar to how the Cal hire went, where. Well, before Cal was announced, we were talking Chris Jans from Mississippi State and Darrell Walker from Little Rock. Is this the same type of scenario? And then we're going to come out in the next 2 days and announce some big time hire out of left field that nobody was really thinking about. And we're like, okay, I see you. I see what we did there. But until then, it really seems like we're tracking towards one of these guys like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm crossing my fingers, but I'm not giving up my hope either. So
I was about to say, I'm crossing everything I got right now at this point. Like that's what we need to happen. So, so I don't know. It sparked something yesterday. I'll just mention it briefly. Was Kane Archer from Greenwood. We all know that story. Decommitted from UCF yesterday. Everybody's like, "Ooh, what does this make? What does this mean?" Well, he turned around today and committed to Utah. So that has nothing to do with the Arkansas coaching search. Some people kind of was looking into that saying, does this potentially have to do with Arkansas? No, it doesn't. So, Yeah. S Jack here, I agree with you. No chance, Jans. Thank God for Cal. I agree.
Yeah.
So, uh,
Yeah.
but with that, we're gonna get ready to wrap up here. But we're gonna, I guess, quote unquote, being on Coach Watch. So as soon as we figure out, we're gonna be doing a quick um, emergency live breaking show as soon as we can. Once we find that out, so be on the lookout in the next few days. But anything else as we get ready to wrap up here, Austin?
I mean, I think that's it.
Yeah. So, you know, as we like to say, like and subscribe to the show on YouTube. Make sure to hit that bell. That way, you know when we go live next, because more than likely we're talking the next Arkansas head coach. So, like and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Go follow us across Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, across those social medias where you'll be able to find our content. And as we get ready to wrap up here, our next show, unless we know that head coach and we have that breaking news show, our regularly scheduled episode will be Wednesday this week, as Thursday will be Thanksgiving. So we'll be back Wednesday to talk about preview the Duke Arkansas game, preview the Arkansas Missouri game on for the last regular season game. And so until then, or we hear who the next coach is, everybody have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time.